Hi everyone. You are now attending the webinar for PMO and Portfolio Management on how to connect project delivery to business value. I want to welcome you today and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us for this topic, since we are all concerned about deriving business value from the projects at our companies. In this webinar, you will be introduced to ITM Platform, which is a very broad project and portfolio management tool. This means that you can select how you are going to apply it to your business and the way you run your projects. You don't have to use everything. In fact, we are going to share with you 3 case studies as examples of different ways in which ITM's customers have connected their projects to the creation of business value. My name is Linky van der Merwe. I'm a project management consultant and founder of Virtual Project Consulting, an online management consulting business that provides best practice project management advice and recommend resources to project management professionals. I've been a blogger for 8 years, a speaker and contributing author to a book about the integration of social media into project management. As a practicing project manager for almost 20 years, I've worked at several organizations in different sectors, like IT, telecommunications, public sector, retail, and I haven't come across a tool yet that offers so many features as a built-in functionality as ITM. That's why I made the decision to become a local partner for ITM Platform in South Africa. My co-presenter today, Jaime Capital, is from ITM Platform. Jaime is a philosopher and digital communications expert concerned with the challenges that make knowledge-based organizations work. He has recently spent 2 years in Washington, D.C., researching the evaluation of think tanks and is now the content strategist at ITM Platform. Welcome, Jaime.
Thank you, Linky. Thank you for presenting today, and welcome everyone. Thank you for connecting and making a time in your busy schedules.
The agenda for today is to introduce you to ITM Platform's project and portfolio management solution and to share some success stories from customers. The presentation will take about 30 minutes. It will be available as a PDF download under the handout section. On your right, you'll see it there, as well as a comparison with MS Project, which you can open during the webinar even if you want. All attendees can ask questions anytime during the webinar by using the chat function on the right. I'm sure you've seen it there. And you can also report any technical issues, which we will try to assist with, although sometimes they may be caused by local connectivity. We will take the questions we received during the webinar at the end, and I will now hand over to Jaime, so enjoy the webinar with us.
All right, thanks again, Linky. It's really a pleasure to have the opportunity to speak about ITM Platform and about portfolio management and PMOs to a South African audience. I would like to use the opportunity to talk about our local network of South African partners. We have an active approach in partnerships with South African organizations, including the Project Hub in Pretoria, TechWare Dynamics, and Pure Digital Solutions in Johannesburg, and Linky's on Virtual Project Consulting in the Cape Town area. The reason why a global company with a cloud software like ITM Platform has a partner strategy is that we want to make sure that all our customers have all the means to succeed in their project governance challenges. And in order to do that, it's enormously important to have someone that knows the software that you're using and then is able to visit you and talk face-to-face and really go through the daily aspects of implementing a solution, deciding a methodology, and tweaking every aspect. So all our partners have all the expertise that you need, and additionally, they know the context much better than we do. They know the South African economy in and out. All right, so we are also offering small perk for all of those who are so generous with their time to attend the webinar throughout, and we are offering you to access to this Kanban board for a PPM deployment. The way you can get it is by first entering into the address below. Remember that you can also access it on the PDF presentation. Open an ITM Platform trial, which is valid for 14 full days, and then write us an email and say that you want access to this Kanban board. This is an agile project which condenses all our know-how and experience in deploying project governance across an organization. The kind of aspects that you have to look into, the aspects that you want to unify in a centralized methodology, the terminology, all of those aspects are summarized into the tasks of this agile project. So it's really useful if you want to take a shot at going to the next stage into your project growth. All right, so before we start, we would like to know a little bit about the attendance today. So we're going to launch 2 polls, and this is the first one. We would just like to know what type of software you are using to support your projects. And the options that we have are Excel. A lot of people use Excel not only to create their custom Gantt chart, but also for financial control. MS Project, which is of course the industry standard, some other PPM tool, or really no specific software. We would like to know, because it's important to know exactly what are the challenges that you're facing, and perhaps talk a bit more in the Q&A about those aspects, or focusing on some parts of the presentation rather than others. I'm just going to let have 67% of the attendance voted. I'm just going to give you another 10 seconds if you still want to vote. All right. And I'm going to close, and we'll see the results. Okay, so as you can see, 80% of the attendees use MS Project. It's really the industry standard. Now, I don't know whether you use it in the online version, project server, or any of the other portfolio aspects that it has that are actually a bit tricky to configure. But of course, as a desktop solution, it's great. It's not as great for the challenges that involve expanding projects into the entire organization, and probably those folks that have a PPM tool are more aware of what they can do with this kind of scope. But that's good. So probably those 80% would be interested in the comparison that they can download. I'll hide now the results. And it's back to you, Linky.
Okay. Thanks for that. As many PMO managers and practicing project professionals have experienced, most companies have very typical PPM needs and challenges. They will range from having control over projects, but perhaps a lack of transparency exists. The need for portfolio reporting, KPIs, and how strategic projects align with company strategies and objectives. To manage return on investment through proper budget tracking and cost controls. Collaboration and information sharing between project teams, stakeholders, internal and external, is required, but it's very difficult to achieve. Service provider or vendor monitoring is necessary on all your big programs. And of course, having a PPM platform that is cost effective. ITM Platform differentiates itself on many levels. It functions as a micro and macro PPM tool. It's a PPM tool that actually connects the project details with the portfolio level in a very practical manner, and it provides live portfolio evaluation. It connects planning, execution, and strategy in a single tool. It's easy to implement as a cloud-based tool and really simple to use. Therefore, your users will require little training. It gives you the ability for easy reporting from smart devices like mobile phones or tablets with external apps that require no login. From a usability point of view, all components of project integrations are in plain sight. So it's really a great tool for project and program managers, for PMOs and portfolio managers, even for financial controllers and CFOs, your CEOs and other executives. It gives you a view of what is going on with my projects at any given time. Now I'm going to hand over to Jaime again for case studies and another poll.
Thanks, Linky. So yeah, before we dive into the case studies, we would like to ask you, what are some of the challenges that you typically face? Let's see what you think about this. And of course, there may be other options. We have tried to simplify it. The options we are sharing with you is your team members might be overutilized, particularly those that have the most expertise. You may not have a clear picture of how your projects are performing, which is related to the third possibility, that project information is not centralized in any repository, but is rather scattered in multiple locations, particularly if you are a multi-site company or you have remote workers. There may be silos there that really prevent you from sharing all the information that you need. And related to this is the problem of lacking a collaborative communication culture, which of course needs to be supported with the proper technology. Okay, 71% voted. I'm just going to give you a couple more seconds if you are undecided. And I'm closing the poll to see the results. Good. So as you can see, it's very distributed. The first option is really that team members are overutilized. This is very, very typical. It's a hard to solve problem because ideally you would have infinite expertise for all of your tasks, but of course that doesn't happen. There's over half have a problem with tracking performance and having the proper information, and a third has identified a lack of collaborative communication. We have a hand raised. Anita, could you please send us a question so we can have a conversation without stopping the webinar? I'm just gonna go on by first hiding the results, and I'll jump into the case studies. So the first one we have is a startup created recently in Spain. Their name is Oneiric, and they are in the difficult business of knowledge transfer. The founders are studied in Universitat de Barcelona, in Barcelona, Spain, and they identified a typical problem with academic research that has little impact. And they want to go beyond that by creating a model in which their main revenue source comes from licensing the research that they undertake in-house. As you can see, well, there's a lot of a very broad knowledge base here. They are experts in polymers. Those are materials that are used in many different industries like aerospace, healthcare, chemical industry, and food and agro. Polymers can have very different physical properties and behaviors, and they can be tweaked with enough research and innovation, and that's where their model comes in. However, their greatest business need for Oneiric right now is to be able to go from the business model into the reality, identify what is the actual demand of the market, and react to that, and be responsive to the performance of their different research programs as time goes by. Why did I choose ITM Platform? Well, the first reason is that it was the most comprehensive PPM tool that they could find for the amount of money that we were willing to spend, I could add, because being a startup means that they don't have millions of dollars available just for software. Additionally, they identified ITM Platform as, in a way, a partner in a catalyzer that could take them from a startup situation into a higher maturity stage. ITM Platform is simple enough so that you can start running your projects from scratch, but it allows a lot of complexity. So it's a good transitional tool as well that you can consolidate in a more mature stage. And finally, ITM Platform is great for financial control, and that was a requisite for them because they needed to calculate return on investment by customer and by program. These are some of the projects that they do, or the different verticals, probably, I would say. This means that they do outsourced research on demand for many customers. They also want to be doing more and more in-house research, which is challenging, as we will see, because you really need to focus a lot on forecasting what is coming, what is going to be the next hit, what is the trend in industrial polymers. That is a very big part of their business intelligence. And they also do workshops because they develop very good customers' relations through that. Now, these people are not naive project managers. They have expertise managing research projects, and very large ones, with European funds that usually are multi-million projects with the participation of at least 3 different countries, organizations based in 3 different countries. So they know what a project is. They know that it must have very different phases and so on. Right now, they are conducting mostly commission projects, which are reactive. This is the reactive part of seeing what is out there in the market. But they want to go from there, and this is where they are right now on the top pie chart, to a situation in which most of their revenue comes from knowledge transfer, from in-house research. In order to do that, though, they need to have the bandwidth and the slack to fund that internal research with those commission projects. So it's enormously important for them to measure profitability and to track how much customer-based projects are allowing them to fund their long-term objectives. Now, in terms of business process, that means that they have a quite complex portfolio cycle oversight. They have criteria for initiating and abandoning projects to know when a customer request or an RFP is not going to be good enough to support their objectives and the sustainability on the long run. They also need, of course, to measure and compare the profitability both by program and by customer. So one thing I forgot to say is they do a lot of program management because each research line is a different program, and there's a number of projects underneath which are populated depending on demand and depending on how much time they have left for their internal research. So they have to keep track of that and compare how much revenue that is creating and also how much time each program is consuming. And finally, it's also interesting that they do a lot of, they use both agile and classic methodologies. Scientific research is very predictive. You always know what are the stages that you're going to go through, the experiment, the clinical phases, everything. But you don't know the result. However, everything else is pretty much predetermined. So when they respond to an RFP, one big part is creating a very serious and professional looking Gantt chart. But for internal management, being a startup means that they need to be very horizontal and share responsibilities. They use agile projects. They use Kanban boards that allow them to see, you know, for marketing projects, for administration, for workshops, and so on, what needs to be done, and people can take and claim responsibilities as they go. All right, we're moving now to a much bigger company. In this case and the next, we have to keep the anonymity of the company, but these customers are fine with us talking about their situations. We just have to be very discreet with the precise name. It's an oil and gas company, and they're using the ITM platform for procurement management. So we'll look at the details a little bit. This was a formerly publicly owned company. As you can see, they have very big customers, including Iberia, because they do storage and distribution of oil and gas, including in airports and so on, and additional services. Now, one of their most important business needs were that being a company that goes back decades, they have a lot of legacy technologies, and they need to maintain them and improve them because they are connected to the core business, to the delivery of oil and gas, to tracking how much supply is needed, how much is being lost, and so on. And this posed a challenge in terms of the visibility of the entire process and how change requests should be managed, because everything is outsourced. That's the reason why they chose ITM Platform, because ITM Platform allows to track, manage, and monitor suppliers. So they decided to create a new policy that all suppliers had, all IT suppliers had to use ITM Platform to manage change requests. They have different projects, as you can see, but from this list, the ones they are managing right now with ITM Platform are the internal projects of IT maintenance and innovation. And the process is interesting. As I said, they have created a new policy by which every IT provider is has to use ITM Platform, and this policy is enforced. And under this model, there are two consultants from one of the providers who act as PMO managers of the App Maintenance and Innovations group. Whenever issues are communicated to them, they distribute the issues to a task manager who creates a micro project with an agile methodology. So the problem is analyzed, a solution is developed, later on tested, and finally implemented. There's up to 9 procurement companies with a total team of 25 consultants using ITM Platform licenses, and many of them are from large corporations specialized in IT. Finally, I'd like to say that this is a pilot and success test, which is a very interesting recommendation that I would make to anyone adopting not just an ITM Platform, but any tool for project and portfolio management. When you want to extend project governance and create new responsibilities, processes and workflows, you need to test it first with a smaller group that is very sensitive to projects. So you get to know the tool better, and from there, you can start expanding. And that's the goal that this customer has. They want to extend ITM Platform as a corporate tool within the next 5 years. So I would say that generally, talking about the title, tying this back to the title of the webinar more explicitly, this corporation is diminishing the IT risks and accelerating business integration with this strict policy for IT procurement that works as a pilot of a corporate-wide project governance tool. Okay, let's go into the third one. This is yet a very different industry. It's a dairy company based in Latin America. They are using ITM Platform for their productivity program 2017. So it's a recent customer that onboarded us at the end of last year. They were created in the 50s in Mexico. They're specialized in dairy products. They're one of the major dairy producers of the Americas. And what they needed was to provide project leaders in many different locations with a shared vision of this new productivity program that we will see in detail. Why did they choose ITM Platform? Well, because it was very easy to adopt. They didn't want to go into a very formalized process of adopting a corporate-wide tool. They wanted to start small. There was a pilot program. And so they were able to launch the initiative within a month and keep the costs at a bare minimum. Being able then to showcase the savings that you can create with a PPM tool of this kind, because in the end, I don't think it's a false assumption if I go to the extent of saying that they are saving a couple of headcounts at least for pure administration with what they're getting from ITM Platform. Now, what is this productivity program about? Well, it is led by the Financial Transformation Unit. And all the programs, it is a new program, as I said. There used to be in the past other projects with the same objectives, which is to reduce costs and optimize processes. But this new program now gathers them and gives them a common methodology. And projects under this umbrella are usually summarized into deliverables that are savings that then contribute to the bottom line of the company. And the most interesting thing probably is they have a validation workflow by which each business unit, and they can be not only in different geographical areas, but also in very different areas of the business, like marketing or logistics or the production itself, or even financial aspects of the business. So there's a program coordinator who is appointed to be in charge of entering into ITM Platform and checking the progress of real savings compared to the estimations. That information is then validated by the company's financial controllers. So everybody knows that what the aggregate says, that the savings were produced by the programs, are true. And this creates perception that everyone is on the same page and we are progressing towards a common goal with these projects. So in this case, and this is extremely important for portfolio and PMO approaches, there is a project culture of ongoing optimization that is based on internal transparency and on creating the awareness that optimization and cost reductions are priorities for the company's success and to keep the competitive edge. Of course, there is also a methodological consolidation that is starting this year. Program coordinators in the different units who have already joined this year will have a notion of how the project works and how it is going to work, can make a case about it, and expand it so that whenever any new projects and project coordinators come in, they have other people to talk to. They know how it's going to work, and they can see progress as it unfolds. And again, in this case, it's also about creating the embryo of a multi-location PMO. It's connecting people with enormously different backgrounds together and giving them a common goal and a way to go forward. Right now, the tool was first adopted, as I said, by the Financial Transformation Unit, but it has been expanded to the IT department, and it is planned to sort of trickle down into the manufacturing plants. So summarizing, I would say that projects only deliver business value for this company and a clear contribution to the common direction of the corporate strategy when they are clearly connected to that shared culture and to that way of doing. And the transparency and the visibility that a portfolio level structure gives you is able to break up those informational silos that we were speaking about earlier. All right, so now to the conclusions. Thank you for your patience. We are getting to the end of the webinar. I would just like to point out the main aspects that to me are common to all these different companies and sectors. The first one is that PMO and portfolio management are not technical musts per se. They're not goals in themselves. They are important because they can help you move forward through the challenges that you identify. They can help you grow your business, but your business is only going to grow if you plan it properly. So I would recommend not to make a list of all the best practices possible and listen out to all the expertise of a PMO consultant and try to tackle everything at a time. Just try to focus on what are your main challenges and where you will be able to drive value faster and how to create a common culture of project governance. And that's the best way. Start small so that things work, or you can track what isn't working if it doesn't, because if you try to tackle all the aspects of project governance at once, it's going to be enormously complex. But if you do the other thing around, starting small, you can do it. Any company can go to the next stage. That's the nice thing about it. All right. Before we go into the Q&A, I would just like to point out that we would like you to be aware of the context of our different partners in South Africa. They are very nice people, enormously helpful. We love to talk to them every week. And you will also have these contacts for reference when you download the presentation or when we share the video with you.